Okay, so let's talk about Michael Jackson, as the mystic, as the incarnation of an angelic presence, here to do a mission. And that mission is to repair the split, recover the shadow, and lead the way for the rest of the angelic presence. Yeah, that was a lot and a mouthful, but I want you to stay with me through this video and you'll learn something about Mike. You'll see him from a different perspective, and you'll understand at a deep level how important it is to continue to do the inner work, the shadow work, that even the angelic realm participates in this. All right, so let me back up. My name is Jonathan, and like and subscribe if you find this interesting. And don't take my word for it. Of course, there's no proof, there's no evidence that I have to confirm. How can you use proof or evidence for something mystical, something magical? But what you can do is use your own intuitive nature and you utilize your own inner knowing. Put the pieces together and see for yourself. See the symbols, see the signs, because that's the way the spirit communicates, is through symbols and through signs. And when you can read those symbols and read those signs, then you'll be able to understand and decode the message and maybe even pull things out that I didn't see. So I'd love for you to add to this discussion and to share your perspective. Now, I'm not the first one to talk about Michael as an angelic presence. This was already talked about years and years ago by brothers Bobby Hemmett and Brother Panic. They already talked about Michael Jackson as an incarnation of the angel Michael. And you might be thinking, if you're not conscious or if you're not in this esoteric minded, whoa, what are you talking about? It could seem like something weird or strange. But if we look throughout time, how strange was it for, if you look in the Bible, for instance, angels walked and talked, angels had sex with humans, supposedly, and had children. Angels went to battle. Jacob, I think it was Jacob, wrestled with an angel. So there's a physical incarnation to this angelic energy, especially if you take those stories literal, which they were not, but if you were to. So, why would it be strange that angelic energy would not have a physical embodiment, a life? That would be a beautiful way to impart upon a mission, to share a message, would it not? And wouldn't it be amazing if it came unexpected in a way we would never expect and we would not look for? Because if an angel announced itself and said, "Here I am," what would people do? Well, we know human nature, what they would do. They would try to crucify, which they did. They did do that to Michael Jackson later on, but at least he was able to put his message, his music out, and to do the work and show the work of repairing the split, which I'm going to get into in a moment. So, that being said, I'm not going to get into the specifics of why he's Angel Michael. You clearly see that in the way he dressed, military garb, leading the pack, his marching dances, his transformation before your eyes. You know, you could just see that. You could just see all the symbols there. But what I got from this is why. What was his mission? What was he trying to do? What was that light trying to show us? What was the goal? And I'm going to do my best in here to share it. Now, some of this information, not about Michael in particular, but in the information I'm going to share comes from the series Right Use of Will. Those books that were released, I think the first one was like back in the 80s. Powerful channeled material that spoke from the perspective of the mother, the divine feminine, divine masculine, the angelic realm, and how this whole game was created here on earth, what happened, and why it turned out to be this way. So the information is inspired from that. through those books, I was able to see things and to unlock doors and to have the keys to be able to read situations because I was open to that. So that being said, I got the credits out the way. I gave my respect to people and to the sources where I'm coming from. I'm going to start talking about my revelation. So when you see Michael and this movie, although it was criticized for going heavy on Joe Jackson, was actually the point. It was actually perfect because what that was showing you, I want you to think of Michael not as a human. I want you to think of him as an angelic being. Think of him as this is the cosmos, or this is the creation, or whatever. And imagine him as a child and what he was going through, the child representing a young energy, a new beginning, and all this responsibility thrust upon him. And he had to play the role of being the obedient son and take the charge and lead. Even in the Jackson 5, he was leading the rest of his brothers. You hear that? The rest of his brothers, symbolizing the rest of the angelic brothers. He was taking the lead, and there was a lot of responsibility put on him. So, what this story is telling you, it's from the angelic perspective, Angel Michael's perspective of what that light experience, that responsibility put on that realm. When that realm itself, that energy itself, did not have full understanding of things. And you can see how it was unfair, huge responsibility, and still unfolding in understanding and in wisdom. Now, at the heart of this is something really important. At the heart of this is this idea of the war in heaven. Now, we have accounts of this in Hindu texts. In Greece, there's a war between the Titans and the Zeus in them. In the Bible, there's a war in heaven. So we have accounts of a war taking place in the heavens prior to this place. And there was sides, there was polarities. What I will say, especially coming from the material, from the right use of will material, that shined a light on that. The war involved a misalignment between the forces, between the masculine and the feminine, between the spirit and the will. A misalignment took place. And what happened was a certain segment of the angelic realm rejected their wills. Yeah, it sounds wild, right? But if you think of it, angels are not known to have wills. Angels are known to carry out orders. They have specific stations, they have specific things they do, and things that they carry out, immense power that they and responsibility. But if you dig throughout some of the texts, it is mentioned that these angels don't have wills. And can't remember which one it is right now, but I remember hearing that and always being curious of that. And you always see the angels as an extension of the father energy, as the monad energy. These angels carrying out these orders. But what this material was showing is that, well, this angelic realm, an aspect, rejected their wills. This was the war in heaven. This was the split between the two sides. And if you go back into the movie Tron, and there are certain other movies, they show you the story. If you don't see it as a movie, but see it as a revelation, as a revealing, you'll see. In the movie Tron, the first one that was just released maybe 5, 6 years ago, the character that the character that was created was maintaining the order of the system. And he turned to the creator of the system and said, I was only doing what you told me to do. I was creating a perfect system. I was creating a perfect world. And that creator was like, I see that now. I understand. Because the world they created was a terrible world. It was a totalitarian new world order. Nobody had rights. It was all about hierarchy, structure, obedience. And it was that being's interpretation of what it felt the creator wanted to maintain that order. So in essence, that being didn't have will, didn't have divine will and free will. And free will is seen as a threat to this realm. Is seen as a threat to this reality. Is seen as a threat to the Father's kingdom, the Father's reality. And this is where this war in heaven came between the angels that have wills and the ones that rejected their wills and are programmed. But what are they programmed with? Well, they're programmed with a Luciferic consciousness. A lot of Rudolf Steiner's work, if you look that up or listen to some of his audios, this will add a good nuance to this to this picture I'm painting here. So this Luciferic or false light energy came as a result of the misalignment. There's a misunderstanding, a misalignment, and polarity emerged as part of or as a result of this creation. And the Luciferic light is an unloving light. It's a light that is like a program running that is about being against the will. We'd say being against the will of God, as you say, as people say that, thinking that free will is dangerous to the will of God. That so they are extending that idea that is a threat. Now the will represents the divine feminine. Yeah, that's the wild card in this. The will represents the divine feminine. It is the feminine aspect of reality, the will, the intuitive knowing, as opposed to the masculine aspect, which is typically associated with having the vision, the execution of it, the order, the stability, the and so forth. So, what we've been seeing on Earth is an interplay and a war between both sides through civilizations. You think of all the civilizations we've had throughout time, the major ones. Most of them represented an imbalance of polarity. Atlantis was more polarized to the masculine energy, hierarchy, structure. Some say there was even slavery there, oppression, following the strict hierarchy of the rules, which, invited corruption and abuse. And that eventually fell, destroyed itself. They were military, they had great progress with science and metaphysical science, and yet they lacked the feminine presence. They lacked the heart presence. They lacked the intuitive presence. They lacked the wisdom. They were not holistic. They fell. On the other hand, you had Lemuria. Lemuria was more feminine based. They were more free, organic, art based expression, intuitive powers, psychic powers, and all of that, as described in these texts. But because they lacked the masculine, the yang side, right? They were more yin, right? They fell as well, and they were not able to set boundaries and hold their own when it came to um, invaders coming in to kind of take them out. And you've seen this play out through time where civilizations are peaceful and loving and feminine, but they lack the yang energy and they get overrun with a yang energy. And then you see a yang energy that dominates, that spreads out and conquers and builds and creates and is oppressive, and then it folds and is destroyed, usually from within. So this war has been taking place on Earth. We've just been replaying this, and these people around the world in positions of power are influenced by this these beings that are polarized to whatever they're polarized to. You know, you could see it playing out in religions polarizing to a specific pole, primarily the false light. And the false light is a distorted masculine, it's a distorted father image. It's not the real archetypal source father, cosmic father, or right? It is a distorted, warped shadow. So Joe Jackson in the movie embodied that, this idea of being perfect, of obedience, of oppression, of following the rules, not having a will, embodied the distorted image of the father and and the consequences of that. In Michael showing you his family drama, listen up. He was showing you our family drama, the cosmic family drama that has been unfolding. But what was beautiful about it, Michael, as the one who conquers, who's victorious, just listen to his album, the, you know, victory tours, victorious. That's the energy of Angel Michael, victory, invincible, right? Dangerous, right? Overcoming, winning his court cases, winning his battles, becoming the best. And everybody with that name, Michael, just becomes the best. Mike Tyson, the best. Michael Jordan, the best, and so forth. So there's an energy of conquering, of victory, of really being exceptional. And what he did, which is really interesting, was he showed the family drama, and he had to stand up to his father. But what was he doing? He was really standing up to that false image. He was rejecting that false image, that false, distorted father image that people carry in their unconscious, in their shadow. And for what I saw, he was leading the way for all of us to do that, and for the rest of the angelic realm. He embraced his will by him saying, no, I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to do this. He embraced his free will. Because the real thing is that your will, your free will, is aligned with the cosmic will. That's the joke, right? Because that's the fear, or that's the threat, is that everybody's will would create chaos and disruption. But the truth is, our will, being divine, is already aligned with cosmic will. So when the will is operating fully in full expression, in no way would it cross someone else's will. In fact, it would be more aligned with someone else's will, because it's the same damn will. How it expresses through you, how it expresses through me, how it expresses through someone else, right, is the beauty here, is the magic. But through full expression, it adds to and expands light. And so this is the lesson here for people, which I believe this realm is here to teach people how to use free will and how to master their free will, so that beings can go on and not have their wills being used against them, not having their wills hijacked, not having their wills, not rejecting their wills, but understanding how to be a holistic being. And Michael Jackson, as that incarnation of the angel Michael, was leading the way, like he always does, leads the way towards healing, leads the way towards recovering of your will, leading the way towards rejecting that false image of the Father. Because the true archetypal Father, the true divine Father image, is not about oppression, is not about overbearing patriarchy, is not about abuse, is not about any of those things, right? That's what a segment of beings believe it to be and have enacted a role in this reality and other realities to carry out the orders of the Father. But it's not the orders of the Father, it's the orders of this Luciferic light. This is what you call the fallen ones. Fallen because they rejected their wills and they took on a false light. So this went really deep. And, it's tricky to even explain it because how can you explain billions of years and all these things happening in like a 20-minute video? But I will leave it at that. So Michael, as an incarnation of this angel Michael energy, came to lead the way for the rest of the angelic realm and for humanity to show us how to recover our shadow. And what we must do is reject this false, distorted father image, recover our will, stand up to this false light that we've taken on, and reject that. Reject that in all its forms, through religion, through oppression, through politics, whatever it is, reject that and recover your divine free will because it's your divine right. It's who you are to have and express your divine free will. And with that, I will say like, subscribe, leave a comment,